Hello and a very warm welcome to you all. I'm Meha Bhardwaj-Alter and this is Game On. If you are still recovering from that stunning spell by the Indian bowling attack against Sri Lanka and you want to continue the conversation, we are here to help you. Today on this show, we look back at that incredible innings where Indian bowling unit showed how they are the best in the world. Are they the best ever that India has seen in the world? That's debatable. But without comparing eras, this World Cup is the first time ever that an Indian bowling unit has dominated like what we've seen from the great West Indies side, the Australia side. That's how they've been. They are the most feared in this tournament. There's accuracy, there's consistency, there is swing, there is seam and pace. They've turned this tournament into their canvas and their bowling into an art of the highest quality. Chetan Narula and Jamie Alter are here with us and they will agree that in all the years, guys, that we watched World Cups, for an Indian side to have this kind of a bowling attack, the most feared bowling attack in the tournament, and I'm going to start with Chetan, they are creating a legacy, Chetan. There's no doubt about it.
Hello, Meha. No, there's no doubt about it at all. I mean, I was talking to a few fans after the game last night. It finished quite early, so there was a lot of time to have a bit of chat. People have come into, like I said in the show yesterday, people came in to watch two things: to watch India win, to see Virat Kohli score 100, and now there's a third item on that list: to watch this terrific Indian bowling bowl. This terrific Indian attack just uproot the opposition literally, quite literally. And, you know, Bumrah, first of all, he gets those wickets. He's a rare bowler. Then Siraj hitting his traps yesterday. Shami, oh my God, he takes, 3 overs to take a 5-wicket haul. It's absolutely crazy. Kuldeep Yadav and Ravindra Jadeja on their day, they are taking wickets with somebody like an R. Ashwin who's played just the one game and is sitting on the bench. People are turning up to watch this bowling lineup. They're excited by it. They're excited by what they can do, how far they can take this Indian team in this tournament. And Jamie has also said earlier, you know, we haven't chased too high totals because of our Indian bowling attack, and that absolutely rings out true. This is a phenomenon. This is a rare phenomenon that we are witnessing on these pitches, which are not overtly helpful for every bowling attack. But India has been unbeatable, almost unbeatable in bilaterals, in ODIs, in home conditions, and there's a reason for it. And the reason is this bowling attack, it just can't be beaten.
And just to do it with this kind of swagger, Jamie, you know, it's one thing that you're bowling well, but to do it in this way, that everybody is watching you on the grandest stage when it comes to cricket, and you are just going out there and you're bossing the opposition. Sri Lankan bowlers were scared. Sri Lanka batters were scared. Their assistant coach said this in so many words, that this is very scary. This Indian bowling is scary, quote unquote. So you're really not just looking at an effective bowling, a balanced bowling unit, an informed bowling unit. You are looking at the most fearsome bowling unit that we have seen from India in World Cups.
Exactly. And it's because, again, we've discussed, you know, the comparison is not always accurate. It's not always truthful. But you have to see, right, where is this World Cup being played? You know, had this been played in England, you would understand that, yes, this kind of bowling would do well, because overall, even despite the flatter tracks in England, smaller boundaries, the bowlers would do well. But just like Chetan was saying, these are not really, there are no green tops. Lucknow was a tricky one, but overall, on a lot of flat tracks or tracks where there was 320 to be scored, these bunch of bowlers are doing the job, you know. So why I said this is the best is you have to look at the era this game is being played in, what's stacked against the bowlers, and then you have to look, it's India. Fast bowlers traditionally, barring a handful of exceptional bowlers, have not collectively done, to my mind, as much as I've been watching, what this team is doing. Now, because it's the World Cup, this is why we have to give them due credit. Had this been a series of bilaterals, I would not have read too much into it. But because through history, through sheer weight of the value of the trophy, World Cups are the pinnacle. So when a Mohammad Shami goes past the mark of 44, set by Jawad Gulshinov and Zahir Khan, you have to take that stat seriously, because these are not 45 bilateral series wickets. These are 45 World Cup wickets. So runs scored in World Cups wickets taken in World Cups are what you should be judged differently by as compared to ODI, random meaningless bilaterals. The fact that India once again are 7-0, it is because, like we've been discussing now for a couple of weeks, it is because of this bowling. Now you look at the conundrum India will be in. Hardik Pandya, by virtue of what he's done in a blue jersey and by virtue of being a vice captain, should walk in.
Yeah.
But has he been performing? No. We all know he's going to play. But India are in that position where they could potentially, not need Hardik Pandya, the bowler. And when he's your seventh bowler in this World Cup, it just says what a phenomenal bunch India have assembled. The same bunch of people who we were very critical of have actually gone and done something very, very inspiring.
So India confirming their place in the World Cup semi-finals by beating Sri Lanka by 302 runs. An absolute demolition job thanks to their pace trio. Jasprit Bumrah dismissed Pathum Nissanka off the very first ball of the chase. Mohammad Siraj nipped out 3 in no time to leave Sri Lanka reeling at 3 for 4. And then Mohammad Shami took centre stage with 2 wickets in his opening over on the way to figures of 5 for 18. At one stage, Shami's figures were an incredible 4 wickets for just 1 run. His 5th wicket put him right at the top of India's all-time World Cup wicket takers list with 45, surpassing the previous mark of 44 held by Javagal Srinath and Zaheer Khan. So abject was Sri Lanka that at 29 for 8, they were staring at their lowest ever total in ODI cricket, but their tail hauled them to 55 with this loss. Sri Lanka now, they've been handed their 4th total of less than 100 in 2023 with this loss, of which 3 have come at the hands of India, and yet Kusal Mendes chose to field first. No one will ever know. Even at the end of the game, he was asked whether he regrets that decision, and he says, no, I think we expected our batters to come good, but it was just extremely difficult to be batting under the lights. But I asked you this yesterday, Chetan, in the first innings. I said, did you miss Rohit Sharma's dismissal? And you said, oh yeah, by the time I got back. I'm going to ask you, by the time you got back, how many wickets down were Sri Lanka?
3 down. There were 3 down. It was hilarious. I mean, I don't mean any disrespect to the Sri Lankan batsmen, but it was kind of hilarious because I got back and I was like, oh my God, what has happened? I'm here to watch the live game and now I'll have to watch highlights despite being present at the stadium, whether it was Rohit Sharma's dismissal or, these first 2-3 wickets that have fallen. But once I took a look, it was brilliant bowling. And look, I'll still defend what Kusal Mendes did. There's no doubt about it. I understand where Sri Lanka are coming from. No, I agree with you. They should have batted first. I'm not saying they shouldn't have. I agree with you. And I think we have learned a lesson, or at least I have learned a lesson in this tournament, that bat first, that is the way to go. But I'm trying to explain what teams might be thinking in the dressing room. I'm not thinking from an analytical point of view. I'm not thinking from a non-cricketer. I'm a non-cricketer. I'm a journalist from that perspective. I'm not explaining from that perspective. I'm trying to be in the shoes of the people who are in that dressing room. Due is always going to be a factor in the heads of the captains and coaches when they're deciding to bat first or bowl first. They will not ignore that possibility. And due makes batting easier technically. And they think that it is the best chance for them to stand up, if not beat. Stand up against a team like India, put in a better performance. It's a very simple calculation, Neha. Yesterday or day before, they would have thought, what gives our batsmen a better chance against this Indian bowling lineup? Is it batting first or is it batting under lights? There's no doubt in my mind Sri Lanka would have thought, okay, batting under lights gives us a better chance. For them to only be 55 all out under lights. And you know what comes to my mind? There were 6 flags flying atop the MCA pavilion, the Mumbai Cricket Association pavilion in the Wankhede Stadium. The breeze was blowing steadily right to left. The ball was doing so much. Shami landing it perfectly, Siraj landing it perfectly. Perfect conditions for seam and swing. The outswinger was perfect from Shami's hand, from Siraj's hand, from Bumrah's hand. You can't play that. And when you're deciding to, bowl first and chase under lights, you can't take that into consideration what the conditions are going to be tomorrow. So
Yeah.
sound decision from a Sri Lankan perspective, it just didn't work, and it will not work against this Indian bowling lineup or batting lineup.
Okay, let's now take some of the quotes of the players. There's Mohammad Shami. What did he have to say? And I'm going to ask this to Chetan and Jamie because the mid-innings show, right after India had posted 358, and I was going to ask them, oh, who's going to be the man of the match? And little did at that point we know that Indian bowlers are going to completely outshine the batters. That's how good Indian bowling was. But Mohammad Shami, the star of the match yesterday, he attributes his grand success to rhythm. He says all the hard work we're putting in, the rhythm we found, it's because of that you are getting to see this storm on the cricket field. The incredible things our bowling unit is doing. The rhythm we are bowling with, I can't believe anyone will not enjoy it. So yes, we are enjoying ourselves a lot and working together as a unit, and you're able to see the results of that. And rightfully so, when Jasprit Bumrah gets Pathum Nissanka out with that very first delivery, Jamie, which is a beautiful delivery. It's so difficult to play. It sets the tone for everybody else. And then Mohammad Siraj comes in the very next over, first delivery. And, Sri Lanka lose another wicket. From there on, of course, your tail's up. You know that the ball's swinging. You know what you can do with your bowling. All of it was set up for Sri Lanka to get out for that lowly total.
Before I answer, I'm just going to say you conveniently left out what I said at the mid-inning show. I got the player wrong once again, but you said, is it going to be Shubman? Is it going to be Virat, or it's going to be Iyer? I said it's coming. The player of the match will be a bowler. I got the wrong bowler. I said Siraj, but in the end, no surprises. I had a sense something calamitous was coming up. So not surprised that it was a bowler. And
you also said in the mid-innings show, both of you, that they will bat, at least they'll score 150. So that's why I
correct. Which just goes back to Chetan very accurately tried to get into the head of what the Sri Lankan team was thinking, but in giving his answer, he very accurately described why that logic doesn't make sense. If you want to back your batters, you back them at 2 p.m. when there's no breeze, when there's no lights, when there's no chance. So utterly flawed logic by the Sri Lankans, if that is what they've thought. Anyways, coming back to your point, look, this was again, I cannot underline how calamitous captains, and I think there have been enough. It's not once, twice, it's literally a dozen times now when captains have made the blunder. So no matter of logic, reasoning, I'll tell you why. These Sri Lankans have never played at the Wankhede. The last Sri Lankan team to play there was the 11 final. When you don't know a ground's condition and you're already such a poor team, this team was bowled out, Neha, 4 times under 100 this year and 3 times by India. If you wanted more reason to bat first, I'm giving it to you. So like I said yesterday on another show, for free of charge, I'm willing to be all these team strategists because no amount of thinking, planning can allow you. I don't understand, despite Chetan's accurate description, I don't buy that logic. It defies logic. You would want to bat under lights against this bowling when the ball throughout this World Cup, look at the Lucknow match. Australia were bamboozled. There's enough examples in this World Cup to tell you, do not chase under lights. This World Cup has bucked the trend by making chasing a very difficult art. And if we can see it sitting here after 33 matches, why these overpaid people with all their teams, Chris Silverwood and the like, cannot get it? It's just beyond me. Anyways, let's get back to what we're discussing. This is a superior Indian team. Every single box has been ticked. The Sri Lankan team is struggling. I don't see how this Sri Lankan team is going to compete from now. And I know you haven't asked this question, but I'm going to bring it up. Sunday, Kolkata, Eden Gardens, South Africa's confidence has taken a significant dent and I'm sure they did, if they watch this match. Because their approach of wanting to bat first may not necessarily work against this well-oiled bowling team.
Yeah, well said, Jamie, because what now India would be slightly wary of is that match against South Africa, how they will do. But this would have given them a lot of confidence. Another quote from Mohammad Shami, he says, I focus on the right areas and the right length. He says, yeah, I'm trying to do my best as always, trying to pitch the ball in the right areas and trying to find the right rhythm. Because in big tournaments, if you lose rhythm, it is very difficult to get it back. So right from the start, the attempt has been to focus on the right areas and right lengths, and it's working. So why not try to repeat it? Now, the conversation that we want to have is looking at the excellent performance of India's bowlers in this tournament. The question has been raised, where does this current bowling attack stand in the overall history of the World Cup? On the current tournament standings, Bumrah is at the 5th place with 15 wickets, followed by Shami at 6th, who in just 3 games, he's claimed 14 wickets at an average of 6.71. Kuldeep Yadav has 10 wickets with an economy of 4.40. Ravindra Jadeja has 9 at an economy of 3.78, and Siraj has taken 9 as well. Factor in that Hardik Pandya will come back at some point, and looking at the fact that Shardul Thakur, statistically India's second most successful pace bowler in ODIs over the last 3 years, and Ravichandran Ashwin, who's sitting on the bench, there is merit to terming this the most skilled bowling pool for India at any World Cup. Shami's 5-wicket haul yesterday makes him India's most successful bowler in World Cup history with 45 caps. Bumrah claims to being alongside Zahir, India's best ever new ball bowler in ODIs, and Siraj, despite a hit and miss performance at the World Cup, was twice this year ranked number 1 in ODIs. What Kuldeep Yadav and Jadeja offer is they're extremely handy in these conditions, and all of these bowlers combined have kept India unbeaten after 7 matches at the tournament. So then, is this indeed India's best all-time World Cup bowling attack? We've touched upon this, but it's right there, guys. Now, we've got to discuss this. You compare the Indian team, this Indian bowling attack, to the ones that we've seen in the past. I will go as far as to say not only are they the best bowling attack, Chetan, they can be compared to the Australian bowling attacks, or for that matter, West Indian bowling attacks in the World Cup, given how feared they are in this tournament. I'm not taking into account conditions and all of that, not comparing eras, just because of pure performance and how fearsome they've been and how dominant they've been.
I don't agree.
Okay.
I don't agree because you can call me cynical, but that fearsome West Indies attack won 2 World Cups in 1975 and 1979. The Australian attack won in 1999 to 2003, 2007. They almost reached the almost reached the semi-finals of 2011, where India stopped them in the quarterfinals in 2011. Yes, this is the best bowling attack in the tournament, but first, if we are to proclaim them as effective as the West Indies attack or the Australian attack, in my book, simply they have to win this World Cup. Once they win this World Cup on November 20, I'll agree with you that this is the best bowling attack that India has ever produced. Until they bring that trophy home, this is all pointless. They can bowl out Sri Lanka 50 times for 50 runs. But if there's no ICC trophy to show for it, it doesn't count. So
okay, fair enough. Good
cynical.
point.
Call me cynical.
No, I don't think, for once I won't call
Yeah.
you cynical for saying this. I think it's a valid point. You've got to be
Yeah.
world beaters. You've
On
got to be
November
world
20.
champions to be able to create that legacy. No one's going to remember you 10 years from now if you don't end up winning the World Cup in how
On
well
November
you've
20,
done. Huh?
On November 20, at the 1 p.m. show or 6 p.m. show, whatever show we do after India has won the World
Yeah.
Cup, I will definitely call them
Good
the best
point.
bowling attack India has ever had in a World Cup. But until then, let's hold our horses. They are the best in the tournament. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah.
But even the 2011 bowling attack brought home a trophy, and that was not good an attack as this one.
Yeah.
At that time, India did not have a monopoly in bilaterals in ODIs in India like this team has. But this team is still not bringing you an ICC trophy. I just hope they do it, and then we can all proclaim it and agree, and we can all dance on November 20th. But let that happen first.
Okay, point well taken. But Jamie, looking back at the 2011 World Cup which India won and comparing that bowling attack to this, clearly this has been more dominant and feared. So then do you agree with Chetan in saying that, bhai, World Cup jeetna padega, tabhi we can see this? Or would you say, you know what, even if India don't go on to win the World Cup, you can never take this fact away from this team that the 7 matches in the group stages have been won by how well your bowlers have bowled.
Correct. So, yes, you should rightfully judge what this bowling team does if and when they go on to win the World Cup. Because after all, it has been 12 years since India have won the World Cup, and a decade plus now since they got their hands on any IC trophy. Now, to counter Chetan's argument, and again, I hope I'm proven right because I've also been sitting at the best of times on this show for the majority of this year. I've changed. I actually have a lot of faith, and it's because of this bowling attack, right? Unlike 11, look, 11 was a crocked bowling lineup. It had MS Dhoni to get the best out of you, and the fact that Yuvraj Singh was your second highest wicket taker, it just says what gaping holes there were in that bowling attack. Man to man, before this World Cup, the volume of wickets taken into any World Cup, and of course this will change every passing 4 years because of the number of players that step away from the game and the ones who keep playing. The 2007 bowling attack had experience because it had Zahir Khan, it had Agarkar, it had Kumble, it had Harbhajan. In terms of combined wickets, that was the strongest ever gone into World Cup. But we saw that team didn't go beyond the first round. This current bowling attack, from everyone who's played a match, has 15.6% of India's overall 6,772 wickets. That puts them as statistically the most successful combined bowling attack ever picked. But like Chetan said, until they win the World Cup, let's not attach any name. I'm still saying it's the best for the reasons I've already outlined, and because it gives me the best hope that this team will buck 12 years of heartbreak and go on to win this World Cup. That's why I'm saying it's the best. Once again, no other past World Cup team had any other bowler apart from the man who's now India's most successful bowler to call off the bench. 83 didn't have any backup strength. 87 didn't have backup strength. These until probably 99, the World Cup squads were all cobbled together with dibbly-dobble, good spinners, right? What this has done, if Mohammad Shami was benched for 4 matches 4 years ago, that just speaks of the volume of the skill that he has. When you can call on a Mohammad Shami, that leads me to believe that this is man-to-man the best World Cup attack. But until it wins it, it will just be called best. When it wins the World Cup, then the best will become greatest. I have no doubt, I will still stick by it. This is the best assembled because they're doing things that no other team has done. 19, this team also won virtually every match. I think the only match they lost was to England when that Kuldeep Yadav Chahal Jodi was broken, right? But matches were not like this. These are 7 one-sided matches virtually because of the skill of bowling we've seen. So I believe this team will win the World Cup on the basis of its bowling. But yeah, like Chetan said, we should perhaps temper our expectations of where this team will go on. Because this bowling attack, like Chetan mentioned, that same West Indies quartet won 2 World Cups. Australia won 5, but they never played the same bowling attack. Will this bowling attack, if it wins on November 19th, play another World Cup? No. So just by that logic, it cannot be the greatest ever because you've only won 1 World Cup. I mean, I'm assuming you'll win 1 World Cup.
Yeah. Okay. Good points by both Chetan and Jamie, but let's also listen into the fans. What do they have to say about this Indian team and their win over Sri Lanka?
खतरनाक जीत हुई है, ऐसा वैसा नहीं, अनबिलीवेबल, रियली अमेजिंग था मैच. हम लोगों ने ऐसा नहीं सोचा. अफसोस रह गया कि विराट की सेंचुरी के लिए हम लोगों ने बहुत शिद्दत से इंतजार किया था कि आज हो जाएगी उसके, बट पहुंच गए यार. आई होप कि सेमीफाइनल एंड फाइनल बहुत अच्छा रहेगा और विराट की सेंचुरी के साथ ही होंगे.
दिल खुश हो गया है, लंका लगा दी है श्रीलंका की हमने. बस यही है, दिल से आए थे यहाँ पे और दिल खुश होके जा रहे हैं. पैसा वसूल है मैच? पैसे बिल्कुल वसूल है, डबल ट्रिपल सब वसूल है. इससे बढ़िया मैच कभी लाइफ में नहीं देखा. बॉलिंग, सारा प्रदर्शन पूरी टीम का, जो हर एक प्लेयर ने फुल पोटेंशियल से खेला. आज 50 के अंदर आउट कर दी. वन ऑफ द लोएस्ट स्कोर हो गए. कनाडा का सबसे कम था, अब ये श्रीलंका भी उधर ही पहुंच गई है. सो अमेजिंग गेम which is beautiful. Yeah.
I was just waiting for Siraj कि वो फॉर्म में नहीं थे, वो भी फॉर्म में आ गए. श्रेयस का भी जो फॉर्म हम डिस्कस कर रहे थे कि डाउट है, वो भी है. अनफॉर्चुनेटली तीनों का सेंचुरी हो जाना चाहिए था आज, बट एक अलग ही लेवल पे चल रहा है इंडिया का टीम अभी. तो यही है कि अभी कुछ अपसेट ना हो. सेमीफाइनल में ऐसे स्मूथली 11 मैच है, 11 प्लेयर परफॉर्म कर रहे हैं, 11 के 11 जीत के वर्ल्ड कप लेके आना चाहिए, ऐसा अभी फील हो रहा है.
टीम में अच्छा बैलेंस बन गया है, स्पेशली हार्दिक पांड्या जो इंजर्ड हुए, उसके बाद आई थिंक जो सूर्य कुमार यादव और शामी को लेकर आए तो काफी कुछ चेंजेस आ गए हैं टीम के अंदर. टीम लुक्स वेरी बैलेंस्ड एंड देखते हैं एनीबॉडी कैन विन इन अ नॉकआउट फेज.
Yeah, I think it was a Paisa Vasool match for all the fans. Chetan, you've told me yesterday there was a sea of blue. You know, it was a packed stadium. There were all kinds of different cheers. We could see that, we could hear that, even while watching the match on TV screens. How was that experience? You know, to see that Sri Lanka, you may have missed the first 3 wickets, but to see Sri Lanka at 29 for 8. What was that like?
That's quite unbelievable, to be honest. I mean, 29 for 8 is not the kind of score you see on a daily basis, and obviously we don't see it on a daily basis. But the fact that it's happening for the 3rd time to Sri Lanka in this year against India, I think it's 4 times that Jamie said under 100, but 3 times against India. That's just I don't know. It's just unbelievable, to be honest. And look. At the mid-innings, we said that, you know, 150, 180. I did not expect Sri Lanka to come anywhere close, not even bother this Indian bowling lineup. Maybe 150, maybe 180. I think I said 180. But 29 for 8? I'll tell you, they were 3 down, then they got 4 down. And then I started writing my report because I was like, this will finish very quickly. I won't have time to write completely write what I want to write and describe the action. So I started writing. For 15, 20 minutes, I kept on writing. I wasn't paying too much attention, but I kept on writing. I was keeping an eye on what was happening. And then I looked up and the score was 14 for 6. I was like, what? They've just moved to 14 runs. What is happening? Like, what is happening? 14 for 6. It was unbelievable. And just moving beyond the action, watching a game at Wankhede is just not about what's happening on the field. It's also about what's surrounding. To me, it's the only world-class stadium in the country. And when I say world-class, I mean in terms of the facilities that are provided to the spectators, the refreshments, the food, etc., everything. So the entire experience, Wankhede is. I think Chennai comes a second, very close second, but I think Wankhede is head and shoulders beyond anything. I think it matches standards of overseas venues like the MCG, SCG, Lords for that matter. So, and the one thing about Wankhede is the crowd gets involved to such a great extent. It's not the biggest crowd. You don't have the biggest crowd there. You get 32,000 over there. But they get involved and they soak you in, they pull you in. And the one thing I just want to say to anybody who's watching, if you can watch a match at Wankhede while Virat Kohli is still involved and not playing for RCB, playing for India. Because when he's playing for RCB, he's playing against Mumbai Indians. When he's playing for India, you know, he has the crowd at his fingertips. You know, he has these antics. He does that everywhere. But the Wankhede crowd with Virat Kohli, there's some tremendous energy there whenever that happens, and you just have to witness it.
Yeah, I think the baton's been passed on from Sachin Tendulkar to Virat Kohli. Of course, they were cheering Sachin in the beginning when Sachin came to the field, as in when he came onto the ground. But then, yes, of course, Virat Kohli. We've seen this even in the IPL, where people at the Wankhede were cheering more for Virat Kohli, and then of course there was this whole fight between Rohitians and Viratians. Jamie, you want to add to the aura of Wankhede and what that would have been like, firstly, to have India dominate Sri Lanka in such a fashion, and that too at that venue?
No, absolutely. Chetan is spot on. There is no other venue like that. You know, we grew up hearing about, Eden Gardens was a spectacle. I've been there. Massively overrated ground. Chennai, yes, I covered matches in Chennai. Very good audience. But for that sheer environment, for what you want when you go to a sporting venue, everything, like Chetan has mentioned. And it wasn't that long ago, 15 years ago, Wankhede was not 2006, 2007 or so. It was not in the state it is right now. But definitely post 2011, it has become the best facility for cricket fans. And then, like Chetan mentioned, just getting to there, if you come by train, it's an experience. If you come by cab, you can get off. Very accessible, all these visuals. Then the celebrity quotient Chetan mentioned, there is no other ground which gives you that, And it's good that Chetan did differentiate between Virat Kohli playing for RCB, because that's just a joke franchise, and also when he goes to play for India. I still think he has a few good years. Like I said yesterday, There was a good crowd which came to watch him get that 252, 242, which was, to my mind, his best Test innings. It's a very appreciative crowd, a knowledgeable crowd. And I'll tell you one more thing. Shane Warne played his last IPL match for Rajasthan Royals against Mumbai Indians at the ground, And Mumbai audience, I'm not saying that all of them read Cricinfo, read Crickbuzz, read the newspapers, but they knew somehow that this was going to be Shane Warne's last match. And the crowd that came out, and even budgeting for the Ambani purse strings that gets a lot of free kids in there and certain things, it was nearly a packed house for Shane Warne's final IPL match. And I was there. And you would have thought India was playing, Sachin was around, but, the crowd came to watch Shane Warne. And that just sums up exactly what Chetan's been talking about. There is no better crowd, no better spectacle than sitting in the Wankhede watching any form of cricket for that matter.
Now, before this match began, I just saw Shreyas Iyer's numbers there. Before this match began, questions were being raised about Shreyas Iyer's problem with short ball delivery. And this is what he had to say. He finally came in. He scored a wonderful 82. To provide that flourish to the Indian total. But he was asked this question, Shreyas Iyer was asked this question about his short ball problems, and he got upset. He wasn't ready to accept it. He says, when you say it's a problem for me, what do you mean? Have you seen how many pull shots I've scored off, especially which have gone for 4? Coming from Mumbai, especially from Wankhede, where the bounce is pretty much even, and it bounces way more than any other pitches. I've played a majority of my game here, so I know how to tackle it. It's just that when I go to hit some shots, you're bound to get out, and sometimes it may work, sometimes it may not. Majority of the time, it hasn't worked for me. Maybe that's for the reason you think it's a problem for me. But in my mind, I know there is no problem. There were also a few Hindi sentences in there where he said, "Aap log mahol bana rahe ho, mujhe koi problem nahi hai." So Shreyas Iyer clearly saying that there is no problem there. Jamie, you want to react? Let's get Chetan to react to this.
I mean, it was funny when he said that. And I was just wondering, why would you do that after such a massive win? But that's fine. I mean, it was bound to come up at a Shreyas Iyer press conference. I was actually surprised that Shreyas Iyer came and not Mohammad Shami. Mohammad Shami came for the open media session. Look, it was very interesting that he said that. And to me, it represents two mindsets. One, like I said earlier, there is an ego mindset where I don't have a problem. You are creating the problem. I don't have a problem. And then there is the Khadoos, the Mumbai Khadoos mindset, the typical Mumbai cricket mentality where you accept that there is a problem and then you work it out. So again, I was beginning to think that maybe Shreyas is accepting that there's a problem and working on it. But clearly that's not the case. There's still that, I'm not going to say it's ego, but he thinks that, it's working for him. And to be honest, the answer he gave is actually a very fair answer that sometimes you pull it, sometimes it's going to be caught, sometimes you're going to get a boundary. If it's Rohit Sharma, it goes for a 6. If it's Shreyas Iyer, it gets caught at fine leg. So then you say, okay, this is a problem. The problem is not Shreyas Iyer getting caught at the boundary. The problem is not whether he's scoring boundaries of a short ball. The problem is what the team management thinks. If the team management thinks that, boss, you have a problem. And if you have a problem, that means our middle order has a problem where the teams which are deploying fast bowlers, and I'm not talking about Sri Lanka, and I'm not talking about Pakistan, I'm not talking about spin-heavy, or spin-friendly bowling attacks like Netherlands. No, I'm talking about South Africa. I'm talking about New Zealand. I'm talking about Australia. The 3 sides you potentially will meet in the semi-finals. So if the team management thinks that you have a problem and that impacts the middle order, then you're not very far off from saying, okay, yes, I have a problem. So I think Shreyas Iyer is somewhere in the middle there. And it's definitely on his mind. But how this ends, whether this ends nicely or this ends badly, I think it remains to be seen.
Sometimes in your head, it can be a problem, but you don't want to accept it in front of the world. That could be another reason, but that's again me trying to read what Shreyas Iyer is thinking. But no, coming to India's bowling and specifically about Mohammad Shami before I move on to the match of the day, Jamie, 45 wickets. Who would have thought? I mean, I know that he's been a good bowler, but to think that in ODIs and at the number of matches that he's taken to get to those 45 wickets, I was looking at it, the best average in the tournament. I think the best average in the World Cups, you know, in the matches that he's played. Some of those records that he broke yesterday were quite phenomenal. Where would you place Mohammad Shami in the pantheon of great bowling in World Cups?
Look, again, this just comes back to the unfairness that comes with comparing generations. Like I said, going back to my earlier assessment, where if you're keeping World Cups as the pinnacle of success, be it for a team, a captain, MS Dhoni is MS Dhoni, not because of how many bilateral series or how many test series he won, because he captained India to the very first T20 World Cup, and then 4 years later won the One Day World Cup, and then 2 years later added the ICC trophy. That is what leads to his aura and the tag of being called a legend. Now, man to man, I still believe Zaheer Khan, especially as his career went, probably had better skill. Maybe my assessment is being blinded from the fact that he was that rare left armer that India lacked, and his reverse swing across the test and one day formats, to my mind, was second to none. Definitely Shami is better than Javagal Srinath. But when you've gone past both of them to take 45 wickets, and your team, okay, Zaheer Khan was there, he had a big role to play in 2003 in his first World Cup. I think he was in his early 20s when he, along with Srinath and Nehra and Kumble, bowled India into the final. He had a massive, I think he got 22 wickets. Chetan will know the number, I'm sure, in 11 when he won. So that's an all-time great one-day bowler. Has Mohammad Shami beaten him for skill and returns? I would say no, but in terms of wickets, right now, I go back to what I was saying earlier. In 19, he sat out 4 matches, but he took 14 in 4. He's taken 14 in 3. It's very rare that you can come off the bench and have this impact. Right now, his average stands at 6.71. It will change because I don't think he's going to take 4 and 5 every match. But even if it dips, his level is so high that it might dip from 4 or 5 to 3, and he might end up with 23, 24 wickets by the time this World Cup is done, because there's 4 matches left. Now you factor in, and I'll wrap it up here. You factor in that he missed 4 matches 4 years ago, and he missed 4 matches here. He could be sitting on 65, 70 wickets. That would be the differentiating factor for me between Srinath and Zaheer Khan.
Yeah, but to think 4 5-wicket hauls, going past Srinath and Harbhajan Singh, they have 3 5-4s, then 3 5-wicket hauls for Shami in ODI World Cups, the joint most with Mitchell Starc, 7 hauls of 4 or more wickets in ODI World Cups, the most by any bowler. So you're not just looking at him breaking records as an Indian bowler, but also among the rest of the others. This is Shubman Gill. Before I just come back to Chetan, Shubman Gill, he spoke about what it was like watching these bowlers in action from the slip. He's saying the way they were bowling, there weren't many conversations we were having in the slip cordon, We were anticipating wickets almost on every ball. But in the last match as well, the way our fast bowlers have bowled throughout the World Cup has been a sensation to watch, especially from the slips. This is Shubman Gill, who scored a 92. Unfortunately, couldn't get 100, but a well-made 92 in that same game. Chetan, just a quick one, because I'll move on to the match of the Giant Slayers today, Afghanistan and Netherlands. But a quick one, your thoughts on Mohammad Shami and where you'd place him in that list?
No, I think he is one of the greatest fast bowlers that India has ever produced across formats, especially tests and ODIs. When you mentioned India's greatest fast bowlers, Kapil Dev, Zaheer Khan, Javagal Srinath, for me, in that particular order, I think a fourth name has to be added there. It's Mohammad Shami. Later on, we will also add Jasprit Bumrah in there, but it just depends, when he's closer to finishing his career. We'll see where he stands. To me, he might be the greatest fast bowler India ever produced. But having said that, Mohammad Shami, he's exceptionally gifted. I've said it previously on the show. There's nobody in this world who has the ability to hold the seam upright and land it upright at that pace, whether it's the red ball or the white ball. There's nobody better at it. However, like I said earlier, with the bowling attack, I would like to judge his World Cup, accomplishments once India has won a trophy. Otherwise, it's just individual skill, individual wickets. Zaheer Khan was great. Kapil Dev was great because they brought home those trophies. They helped India bring home those trophies. And I hope Shami also does that, because the way he's bowling, it deserves or it merits winning that trophy. But again, you still have those two knockout games that have been a problem for India. So I hope it works out, and then we can proclaim that on the 20th.
Okay, now let's move on to the match of the day. Today's match in Lucknow, that's the clash of this World Cup's giant slayers, Afghanistan and Netherlands. Two teams which have made this memorable in the way that they've performed. Afghanistan started the trend of upsets by beating defending champions England in Delhi. A few days later, the Dutch beat South Africa in Dharamshala. This was followed by Afghanistan beating Pakistan and then Netherlands beating Bangladesh. And most recently, Afghanistan hammered Sri Lanka by 6-7 wickets. Okay, so the news from the Wankhede Stadium in Lucknow is that Netherlands have won the toss and they've opted to bat. Scott Edwards at the toss saying it has worked well for us, batting first and the wicket looks decent. Hopefully we'll put on some runs and defend it. He also said Baresi is coming in up to the top and Vikramjit is missing out. They are still fighting for a spot in the semi-final. That's what Scott Edwards is saying. We have played a lot of good cricket as a group. That's not something that we are focusing on, which he's talking about the Champions Trophy next year, because we know the top 8 directly qualify for the Champions Trophy next year. But yes, the news from the Wankhede Stadium in Lucknow is that Netherlands have won the toss and they have opted to bat first. Afghanistan, Hashmatullah Shahidi, their captain, he says that they wanted to bat as well first, but that doesn't matter. He says, we need to play 100 overs of good cricket. It'll spin. We'll try to play good cricket. We are going with 4 spinners. So, Noor Ahmed is in for Naveenul Haq. He also talks about how there's been a lot of support for this Afghanistan team in this World Cup and that everybody is praying for them and that they are happy about that, and the focus will be on today's game. So, given the conditions in Lucknow and as we've seen how it helps the spinners, this is advantage Afghanistan, Jamie.
Look, again, I think the fact that both captains said they would want to bat, because look, Lucknow has been, to my mind, one of the tougher places to chase. You know, yes, Australia got their campaign back on track by beating Sri Lanka here, but I don't think the total was too much beyond 205, 210, if I'm not mistaken. The match which perhaps gives us the best indication is between Netherlands and Sri Lanka. Netherlands batted and they got to 260 odd, you know. That was their best chance, because like we've said, Sri Lanka's bowling is their weakest aspect, and full respect to Madhushanka for being the leading wicket taker. But the fact that they got to 262 against that Sri Lankan attack, which I'm putting a few rungs lower than Afghanistan, I don't know how much of an advantage it actually is this time around. Yes, you have taken the right call because your batting has done pretty well in this tournament. Can they get to that 262? And let's face it, Sri Lanka that day chased it down. I think they won by 5 or 6 wickets. So definitely the best decision to put yourself in a position to win, given how tricky it is to chase. But like you mentioned, then Noor Ahmed coming back in, I think Afghanistan are the dominant side here. And they've chased now twice. They've chased 282 and another target. So they will be comfortable. But that said, if they were put under early pressure, Chetan always says they need 2 middle order batsmen. If the Dutch, and I'm not saying it's impossible, the Dutch could really have this team in trouble, you know, maybe by the 20 over mark, if they're 4 wickets down, that could potentially change it. But I'm not saying Afghanistan have any distinct advantage by chasing. Shahidi said that he would have batted. So I think it's very evident. If you're playing in Lucknow, you want to bat first.
Yes, they're also saying it's the same pitch that was used for the Australia-Sri Lanka match, where Sri Lanka were bundled out for 209 and Australia chased that quite comfortably, Chetan. So, you know, that would give Afghanistan some hope given the kind of bowling they have. But what are you expecting from this game? Afghanistan would genuinely at this point believe that they can beat any teams, especially a team like Netherlands, because they've, you know, been the giant slayers. They've beaten 3 former champions. They would also really fancy their chances, you know, of getting through to the semi-finals.
Absolutely. I think if there's anybody who's thinking about the semi-final, I think it's Afghanistan, because they are in that position. And today, I think they have some good points on offer. I mean, no disrespect to Netherlands. I like the way they talk about reaching the semi-finals all the time. Definitely, they are not the worst side in this tournament, are they? That's reserved for the defending champions. But Look, even in this kind of a matchup, Afghanistan have the advantage over Netherlands just because they have those four spinners. And I think by bowling first, Afghanistan have a good opportunity to just, if you look at that Australia-Sri Lanka game, um, it's a typical Lucknow wicket. The last game, India and England, was played on the Australia-South Africa strip, and it pretty much followed that same script. India, yes, they put on a below par total, but the ball moved around. The seamers did well enough under live, and on that particular pitch, England was shot out. So on this pitch, Lucknow has produced some really typical pitches. On this pitch, I expect the Afghan spinners to really put a chokehold on Netherlands. Don't let them get away too far ahead. 200, 210, that's pretty much it. And Netherlands have shown a habit of having a collapse and then recovering towards the end and getting to a decently competitive total.
Yeah.
Okay. I think if Afghanistan can avoid that.
Okay, quickly, I'm out of time. You want to guess the score for Netherlands? Both of you?
Yes, something around 180 for Netherlands and then Afghanistan to chase it down.
Jamie?
Yeah, I don't see it going much beyond 200. So I'll say, I don't know, 205 tops.
Okay. 6 o'clock is when we'll find out if they're correct. That's it then. Guys, thank you so much. Chetan Nirula and Jamie Alter for joining us completely out of time. News 9 is what you need to subscribe to. For now, goodbye. Thanks for watching.